Hello and welcome to the Money Marketing Podcast and welcome to our end of month podcast. I'm joined again by the editorial team. So I'm going to start by introducing myself. I'm Kimberly Donder, Digital Content Manager, and we have
Katie Pigden, Editor of Money Marketing.
Lois Valley, Chief Reporter.
Oh, hi, Mohamed Musatori, Senior Reporter.
And I'm Darius McQuaid, Investments Reporter.
Thank you guys for joining me again. I know that we had quite a busy September. Some of us more than others. We were out and about and we had a very successful awards show. The Money Marketing Awards went very well at the Londoner. And Katie, you were back up on stage. How did that feel?
Nerve-wracking. Absolutely nerve-wracking, Kim. I was pleased when it was over. No, it was a fantastic night and had some very nice feedback from people, which was lovely. But yeah, I was absolutely dreading it. My first time reading from an auto cue. I know it.
You did really well.
Reading.
Yeah, you wouldn't have been able to know you were nervous, Katie.
I was watching you and I was like, you were really good at balancing out reading the auto cue on like either side of you, but then also when you had that opportunity to look at the audience on either side as well.
Yeah. was trying to, but yeah, so obviously really great that with the events team supporting us as well and how fantastic night that was. But I think I don't know, Kim, but the level of engagement that we've had around it seems to have been more than we've had in recent years, which is really nice. I know it's a different format, but bringing the glamour back with an actual red carpet. There was a red carpet for everyone to walk on, which is lovely. And I think just, all around, it was really nice to celebrate those success stories of the past year.
Yeah, I think everyone had a really great time. And I've seen a lot more engagement and keep it coming. I love seeing everyone's feedback and tweets and LinkedIn messages and Instagrams. Next year, maybe we'll have a couple of TikToks. We'll see. But it was a really fantastic night.
I know we'll preview the coming up mag, Kim, a bit later, but just to sort of say to people to have a little look out for that one, because it will be a bumper issue with the write-ups as to why the winners deserve to win and comments from the judges, photos from the night as well. So if anyone felt that they missed out or just wants to read a little bit more about why they won, then that's what we should look out for.
Definitely. Yeah, the photos are absolutely stunning. Even the ones of like Lois walking in the rain.
I was going to say I had such a good night, but I spent 45 minutes on my hair and then I walked to the awards and it took 15 minutes and I got caught in a thunderstorm and it was just horrendous. It was the biggest middle class nightmare.
See, and that's why people tune into this podcast, Kim. That's exactly the type of thing that they want to be hearing about. Behind the scenes,
how we got where we are. I think that's very important. But let's get into the real meat and bones of this podcast, I guess. And I will ask you guys what you covered in September. Darius, do you want to start us off?
Sure. For September issue, I interviewed Andy Karan, who's Chief Executive of Standard Life. So I did MM Meets with Andy. It was my first one.
That was your first one,
That was, yeah.
And how did it go?
Yeah, it was good for me. It was definitely a different experience. Having a sort of that level of time for interviewing someone or getting that detailed with everything that's going on about and his past, present, and so forth, and ideas for the future and what's going on with the company. But it was really interesting. It was definitely a good experience. I had a lot of fun doing that. And it was it gives you more than enough to sort of talk and write about.
Yeah. Was there anything else that you covered in September that stood out? Obviously, you wrote quite a few pieces for online, and I know quite a few of them made it to our top 10, and quite a few of them, not quite a few, a couple surrounded SJP and the new CEO.
Yeah. Well, the article I wrote was about an SJP partner speaking to me about what they hoped the new SJP CEO would bring. Very soon before the actual announcement actually came from SJP. But the partners,
they said that they must be brave.
Yeah, must be brave and lower the sort of advice and fee model. And I mean, the person did sort of make it clear that they think SJP do positive things and do some really strong in certain areas. And he gets more things right than does wrong. But it was the exit fees in particular was something they sort of zoomed in on, saying that because SJP have exit fees, it can leave a client feeling sort of trapped because it's sort of it's not as easy to move on and so forth because they actually have to sort of go through a process and pay to do so. So they thought that'd be one of the first things the new CEO, hopefully will, a new rule would be implemented was they sort of get rid of that to make clients feel a bit more sort of easy and free to use SJP and so forth.
And then obviously following that, they appointed a new CEO.
They did, yeah. Then, Mark Fitzpatrick. We took over. Was to take over Andrew Croft's position, yeah. It was just. I think it was a few days after I wrote my article, but yeah. So Fitzpatrick was the group CEO of Prudential on an interim basis until February this year, 2023. And so there's the rumours that there was a lot of sort of talk that it would be Fitzpatrick, and then they were accurate this time around. Yeah, Fitzpatrick did receive a position. So yeah.
But also SJP did win Academy. Advisor Academy at the Money Marketing Awards as well. So I guess there are things that they do well.
I mean, it's always going to divide the audience, I would imagine, Kim, as to how that's received. But I think anyone sort of trying to make advice more of a welcoming profession to a wider audience is a good thing. So for us, that was a new category this year. So it was a hotly contested category. There's some other great academies doing some brilliant things as well. And I think it's one of those things that probably the whole profession needs to come together a little bit more for that one, to attract, new talent in, or second careerists or whatever that may be, because we know, again, this can sort of be depending on who we speak to. Is there an advice gap? Well, I think most of us think yes, there is. And there's many people that can't access that advice. But also, with that comes the advisor gap itself, that we could do with more advisors in the profession as well, and more people that didn't just stumble into financial services, that they actually wanted to come into that profession and help people, financial planning, whatever that might be. So lovely to see SJP recognised for the work in that area. I think there was also another story in the top 10. We know we often joke, if we just put SJP in the headline, it will do really, really well.
Yeah, it'll do numbers.
Of what we put in the story, good, bad, or in between. But this was that they'd created a new research role, I think, and they'd appointed Joe Wiggins, who was previously at SJP. And again, just jumping ahead to sort of the October issue, but we've got an interesting piece from Robin Powell sort of saying, are we going to start seeing a change with SJP, with, changes at the top, new people coming in, different sort of direction? So certainly for the new CEO, I think everyone likes to sort of get their feet under the table, probably a little bit, to find out exactly how the company's working and operating. But, I wouldn't be surprised if they do want to make their own mark as well, no pun intended with his actual name, but to see how they want to shape things. Obviously a big advice company, so lots of people would say doing many things right already. We know that there's a lot of arguments around those exit fees, around the fee structure, around certain things as well. So I think one to watch, one for us to keep an eye on as a team, to see what's going on there.
Yeah, see whether the feedback is positive, or they're like, no, he's not brave enough, he's not different enough, and see how that goes. I wonder if people would actually say that.
Well, sometimes also, I guess for them, there's the thing of, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, that too.
If they don't view it as that there's anything that needs changing, then perhaps it will be stay as it is. But and
then if he makes too many changes, then people will be like, what is this person doing?
But, the regulator, as we all know, the regulator's looking more closely at certain things, especially around consumer duty. So I think every company will have to have a look at itself anyway and say, well, are we representing fair value here? Or, what could we be doing differently in this time where there's increased scrutiny on us? And arguably, they should have been doing it anyway. But even more so, they're going to have to pay attention now.
Yeah. And staying with you, Katie, what stood out for you in September apart from, opening the Money Marketing Awards?
Oh, well, so I actually wrote a leader for the magazine about platforms. I done it as a sort of Dear CEO style.
Yes.
About the FCA showing interest in cash savings and how, the platform should look at sort of their cousins, I called them, as the banks and building societies, and the issues that were sort of going on there in terms of how much interest is being passed on to customers. And one thing, I do love some of the comments from our readers one time, so it was described as a snotty, petulant piece of journalism. And so it gave me an idea of maybe we shouldn't call them leaders. Maybe a snotty, petulant piece of journalism is what they should be renamed. But it was more of a thing to get people thinking about this and to sort of see, well, look, the regulator has paid attention to this in the past. It's going to do so even more now. It had written a letter to platform bosses and SIP providers to ask them, how much interest are you paying? Or flip it round, how much interest are you keeping? That's some of the clear things. And actually, only last week we had another Dear CEO letter from the regulator itself go out to those platforms, and cash came up again. So my snotty, petulant piece of journalism. I would like
to, for that person who said that to you, I would like for you to go and take up a service that they provide and say something like that and see how they react, because I feel like they're the type of person who would break straight away. I don't think they would be able to take that kind of
That's a very snotty, petulant piece of financial advice.
Well, in all fairness, I think when I had a little bit of fun with it by putting it on LinkedIn, and I didn't name the person or anything like that, but they then did say, oh, I forgot to add that actually I love snotty and petulant. So apparently they're a big
why would you use what this person is saying, that those are terms of endearment that they use for like their children. They call them snotty, petulant children.
Kim, I'll take what I get. I don't mind. It's I can make fun of myself anyway usually, so I really don't mind at all. But it was just trying to highlight an issue that was coming up, I thought, time and time again, and something that platforms will need to address. But it was funny for me because I hadn't done anything for the mag for quite some time. So by writing that leader, I almost forgot to write the editor's view because I thought I'd done the bit that I really needed to do. And it was only on the sort of like final couple of days, I thought, oh gosh, I actually need to write something else. So yeah, that one stood out for me. Another one for online. Obviously, people may have realised that Michael Klein's no longer with us, has departed. But he wrote a weekend essay, and whether brilliant, I don't know, the headline, Goodbye Money Marketing.
I think people might have been duped and thought that maybe Money Marketing as a brand was saying goodbye.
That. So no disrespect to Mike, very good weekend essay. Very good to learn about his career in financial journalism and, delving into the pensions and investment side of things. But I think it was probably clickbait at its finest.
I was going to say, but I'm almost certain, knowing Mike, it was accidental. It was not intentional at all. But
we did have someone that used to help us out with some writing every now and again, actually, I think put on X and said, oh, I thought something terrible had happened at Money Marketing. And I was like, well, it did. Our news editor's gone. But yes, maybe not quite as terrible as it first appeared.
Yeah, we're still around. Just down at Michael Klein's.
Exactly. I don't think that's a shape we can ever fill, really. But we'll forever be a Michael Klein space.
Yeah. And Lois, what about you? What did you cover in September that stood out to you?
For the September magazine, I wrote the cover feature, and it was all about not the Consumer Duty, but a different piece of regulation, which was, so the Financial Conduct Authority made, why did I call it that? The FCA made changes to its appointed representatives regime, which is for any firms that have appointed representatives. So in financial advice space, that would be financial advice networks. Because I had a conversation with someone from a network a while ago, and she was saying that the conversation was about the Consumer Duty, but then she was saying, actually, for networks, the AR regime is the thing that's really affecting us. So I thought I'd look into that a bit more and see how it was affecting them. And I started it. So the theme for it was back to school, because September, back to school. I can't take that all as my own idea. It was kind of Katie's idea. But from my intro, so I was saying when I was in year 8 at school, I was in this horrible English class, which had loads of very misbehaving children in it who used to smash stuff up and run around the class. The teacher had absolutely no control over them.
Were you in the wrong set?
No, this was top set.
Top set had misbehaving. Wow.
I know. Just 3 of them or something. Anyway, they always ran around the classroom shouting, and the English teacher was small and timid and had no chance. Aww. And then one day our head of year, who was terrifying and had a big booming voice, came in. And I thought, oh, good, because he's going to take these boys out of our class so that we can carry on with our learning. Because I was like that at school. I never got in trouble.
Me too.
Still like it now, Lois. Still like it now, aren't you?
Oh, I don't know. Do I never get in trouble?
Now you rebel because you couldn't when you were a teenager.
I'm not going to say any more on that. Instead of taking the boys out of our class, he put us all in detention for a week, which I thought was incredibly unfair, to punish everyone for the acts of a few. But the reason I said that was because it's a bit like what happens with financial advice firms, where they have to pay the Financial Services Compensation Scheme levy to cover the costs of a few rogue advice firms, but all advice firms have to pay it. So they're paying for the acts of a few, which I can see why they complain about and why it's unfair. And it's quite high. I don't know if it happens in other sectors, but certainly it's quite sort of present in financial advice. And the FCA estimates that about 60% of those acting wrongly are appointed representatives, so part of networks. Right. And so it's toughened up its AR regime, which means that networks now have to look at every single appointed representative they have and carry out these annual reviews and feed back to the FCA why each of their ARs is performing well and not doing anything wrong. Whereas in the past, they could just sort of keep an eye on their ARs themselves and just flag any that were wrongdoing to the FCA as and when. So obviously it's created a big sort of administration burden for networks, especially as they're trying not to put admin burdens on their ARs and therefore sort of force them away. So that was basically what the feature was about. And for any more details, you should probably read it. Yeah. It was timed quite well with
already. If they haven't
exactly. I know it's been out for a while.
Or
now.
If you want to read it again, just to get
you probably should
clarity
at least 3 times.
Yeah.
It's happened to coincide. Our issue going to press happened to coincide with the news that Tenet was getting rid of all its appointed representatives, offloading them onto, it's saying they can go to Open Work. It's doing like a process where they can go to Open Work or Primus, which is a mortgage advice network. And so, I haven't looked into that fully, but it could well be to do with this burden of the AR regime. And there's also sort of questions about whether it's going to discourage more appointed representatives or more financial advice firms from entering and becoming appointed representatives. But then the alternative is to become directly authorised, which is arguably even more difficult.
And we've heard there's sort of delays around that, haven't we, as well, Lois?
Yeah, I've heard anecdotally that sort of 6-month backlog of DA and AR applications to the FCA. So, which is something I wrote my October leader on, which I won't say any more about because you can go and read it when it comes out.
which is very soon. But thank you for that, Lois. It sounds like a very interesting story. I was thinking when you were talking about like the initial like comparison of how your head of year punished the whole class for a few, because in my mind, I think when people in power do that as a punishment, it's so that the collective can then bully the few who are doing the
that's
bad
exactly
thing.
what it was.
But I don't know how that works in terms of like.
Oh, it just made us all hate him. It didn't make. Well, I already disliked these boys because they were stopping me from enjoying To Kill a Mockingbird. But
in the context of what you're writing about, I don't know how the collective would be able to find the few bad ones and be like, hey, can you stop doing this because it's affecting me having to pay fees or whatever.
Exactly. They're just sort of annoyed with the regulators for making them pay those fees more.
Yeah.
I think the regulator would probably argue, it's there to try and protect the consumer. So it's making sure that there's compensation that can be paid out if something's gone wrong. But yes, why that should come down to all the ones that are going about
doing well
correctly. Yeah. I think that would be a whole day that we could debate that one and maybe still not get to the correct answer.
Yeah, because I don't really know what the alternative would be. It seems very unfair, but where else would the money come from? So anyway, that it's trying, basically the regulator's trying to stop as many rogue advisors from misbehaving as possible by strengthening its pointed reps regime.
Thinking about it now, being a regulator would be no fun. So I do not envy that job at all.
I think it's a bit like the SJP discussion earlier. Again, if we put a story up about the FCA or the FCA said something, it tends to do well. But then the comments might sort of suggest, the regulator's been too slow to act and it's done this or it hasn't done this. And not saying again that it gets everything right, but I would argue it can't get everything wrong. And maybe we need to look at it like that sometimes, that yes, advisors get very annoyed, or certainly our readers, I wouldn't say necessarily all advisors, but the ones that comment the most on our site tend to express this dissatisfaction with the regulator. But I think they might then also forget, well, the FCA is there to regulate the banks, the buildings, the other things within the money world as well, and not just financial advice, which although to them is obviously a very, very important area, is a smaller focus for the regulator on a whole with everything else it has to contend with. But yes, there are arguments it's been too slow to act before. There's been things that, why hasn't it stopped these things from going wrong if we've been talking about them for years? And some things do just crop up all the time, so how haven't we fixed those areas? But equally, as we all know, sort of things are getting more sophisticated with the ones that want to do damage, the ones that want to do harm will always find a way. So I think it's probably quite difficult for the regulators to be a step ahead of that and to know how to fix and solve those problems.
That's so true. I mean, like, people are saying that they've been quite slow when it comes to penalizing like financial influences and stuff like that. And now AI, they probably have no idea where they're going to start with that. So I think it's a difficult job, a difficult task. Like I said, it's not one that I would want to do.
And it just takes so long to get things through as well, because they have to consult on it, and then they have to look at all the consultation responses, and then they might have to consult again, and then they have to put out policy paper, and then they have to bring in the regulations. Exactly. And whereas AI is just developed, so by the time they've gone to consultation with something,
it's moved on.
By the time that they would have come up with something, AI would have taken over the FCA.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of like
one thing I think the FCA could be better at is how it expresses itself as well. So it's often telling, the profession, you need to be clearer, you need to make sure that customers understand what's going on. And for us, it can be quite difficult to navigate these consultation papers, all these different names, these technical terms. If you were a customer going on and trying to make sense of the register and stuff like that. So I think the regulator probably needs to look at itself as well and go, well, how can we communicate more clearly? How can we respond to these things? Which, having said that, we are getting someone from the FCA talking at our Money Marketing Interactive conference, which is coming up later this month, the 17th of October. So it'll be great to hear from the regulator directly as to some of that work that's going on. And that's something that I've been trying to sort of say as well, of like, well, use us as that thing of talking to that audience directly, so that if you're facing this criticism and people sort of challenging what you've done or what you haven't done, use money marketing as part of that thing to talk to those advisors directly and say, we are listening to you, or we have noticed this and this is what we're doing, or this is why we're not doing something else.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That was such a silky smooth plug, Katie, honestly.
It was
so professional.
Thank you.
Good job.
I know. I was going to do it later, but it just seemed
I was like, this early on, that's good. I loved it. And finally, Mamadou, what about you? What did you cover in September?
Yeah, well, just to pick on what Katie and all the my colleagues have been saying, it's the FCA and advisors. I did a story for online based on a study by or data, a financial services research firm that talk about the regulation, the Financial Conduct Authority's new consumer duty, which came into force in July. So I think they wanted to check the pulse of the advice sector, how they are complying with the new rules. And based on the reports, that was kind of like a very damning report, because I think the advice sector, particularly the smaller firms, they are finding it very hard to kind of like cope with the new consumer duty rules. I think because of they said cost, complying cost, that's an issue for them to be able to meet the challenges of the consumer duty. So they complain, I think, basically, based on
what is it that's costing them more?
No, well, I think because you have the small, advice firms, 2-man band, 3-man band. They find it very difficult to meet the challenges of the new consumer duty. Compared to bigger firms, I think bigger firms, they have like a compliance, department and other stuff.
Right.
But the small firms don't have that, so they basically have to outsource, that. So they're saying, that will bring additional costs on them.
Having to outsource the compliance.
Exactly. So some were complaining. Some said, that was giving them, stress. That was, and based on that, based on the research, 1 in 10, are planning to quit. The quality, we can do this. So I thought that was very interesting study, that came out. And I spoke to the FCA, but they are saying, it's just a tiny percentage of advisors, because they're saying,
I can see both sides, because like there's a part of me as a consumer, I would like to think that whoever I'm dealing with, as like whatever financial advisor I'm dealing with, has a ton of compliance stuff that they have to complete in order to carry out what they need to for me. But then as an advisor, I think it goes back to that argument of I have less time to spend with my clients because I'm having to do all of this paperwork. And so I guess figuring out that balance there's still some time
and
to
that's
figure that out.
For them. It's like they just want to focus and do their job, Now they have to it's additional, extra burden.
Paperwork.
Exactly. Whether they satisfy client needs, serve the best interest of clients and other stuff, So some are stressing, as far as they're concerned, these new rules and then the challenging, markets environment are two of the biggest, concern for them, for the next 12 months.
And that could go back to our argument earlier that obviously if more leave the profession, who's coming in to replace that as well. So you've suddenly got an even bigger problem. But I think sometimes with advisors, a lot of the frustration is there like a duplication of some of the regulations and the rules. So obviously they had treating customers fairly before, and then the consumer duty sort of come up and is a step up from there. So I think, trying to get the head round all of these things. And a lot of the providers seem to then be offering support for advisors as well, to say, well, we've introduced this channel on our website, or we've got this, so if you're struggling, look here or look there. And obviously it's been talked about for a long time now, but it's still relatively early days since the implementation date.
Exactly. So right now you might be having those like growing pains, right?
Yeah.
Where you are getting your head around, but once you get into the flow of things and it's just second nature, like you were saying, like, Katie, who's going to be coming in to take over? But whoever would come in to take over would only know this process as the process, so they wouldn't have anything to compare it to. And I think sometimes that's where the complaints come from, is that, no, last time when I was using another system, it was so much easier because I learned that system and that's what I was used to. And sometimes you can get quite comfortable in that old way. Whereas this new way might be better overall for everyone, just to keep everyone safe, not just the consumer, but also the advisor themselves. And you just have to kind of adapt to it. And I know that sometimes people are just like, no, I don't want to.
Well, I think sometimes there's a case, and every business is probably guilty of it. Like, we've always done it this way, so we will always carry on doing it that way. And it takes, sometimes a new person to come in and question, why are you doing it like that? That doesn't make sense. Or is that the best way? Oh, no, but we've always done it that way. So it's trying to balance that, I guess, of sometimes that outside perspective where someone could come in and go, this doesn't make any sense at all.
Definitely not exclusive to financial advice, that.
Definitely not.
And then we change. Change is always difficult.
It's
so absolutely you have to go through, the process. But I think when I share that with the FCA, they find it fascinating. Even though they started pointing out, the sample of the survey was very small. They said, you have up to like 40,000 advisors. But these researchers only spoke to 2,000 people. Even though they spread it out. So that was their point. But as Katie, said, well, said previously, kind of like the advisors are kind of like keeping up, with all this new regulation, as you said, RDR, TCF, treating customers fairly, and now the consumer duty. So it's like, with all this regulation, are we seeing changes, because the advice gap is still there, and it's even getting wider, so I think that's a concern also, as part of research, saying that this will also widen the advice gap because it will make advice more expensive. With the cost, with this additional cost,
because then they'll like add the cost to
exactly
fees. It's crazy. Well, we'll see. We shall see. You also snuck into the top 10 with one of your stories as well last week.
Yes, that was that was a scoop. I think you have to act fast. We are lucky. In money marketing, we have very good sources, that will just give us something, and we had this insider information of that the Iris, CEO, was stepping down, just after 4 months, So I think that was a scoop, for money marketing, and we played, we acted fast and and got it out there, So good side.
After 4 months,
not very long.
I was going to say
exactly. So that's what we're trying to find out. Why is he leaving? I spoke to the press guy, who works for Iris, but he refused to go into detail why he's leaving. He just said, I wish him well, and somebody else will step in, But you want to know why? Why was somebody?
So if it was personal reasons, they would have said for personal reasons.
Exactly.
So I would deduce that something happened.
And we're keeping an eye on the new CEO. So I think hopefully, that's the next stuff we want to see whether gets
get the next scoop on who the next CEO is going to be. So the game of business is very interesting to me. But let's look forward to October. What a beautiful month. Beginning of cozy, spooky season. And so who wrote the cover for the October issue?
I did.
Wow. Back to back, Lois.
I know. So amazing.
Right? Do you know what else I wrote? I wrote the MM Meets.
I mean, you do all the work, huh?
In Focus and Leader.
Wow.
It's the lowest issue, the October
Exactly.
issue.
What were you just super inspired? Was that writer that I don't know what the opposite of writer's block is, but that's what you had clearly. Writer's inspiration.
Yes, I hope people don't get too bored with my voice. But I went on holiday last week, so I just wanted to get lots of stuff done before that.
Right, okay.
But yeah, my cover feature for October is on the state pension triple lock.
Right.
So
because there's debates on who's going to keep it, who's not.
Yeah, exactly. So Stephen Cameron from Aegon put out a comment which I liked, which Katie and I thought would be an excellent cover image about it being like pensions poker. So well, he said stick or twist. I'm not sure. I think it's hold or fold. But anyway, I went with hold or fold. I did learn to play poker once, and I only learned.
Is that Texas Hold'em?
Texas Hold'em, yeah.
Yeah, I felt stick or twist was more like Pontoon 21.
Yeah, I thought it was 20,
yeah. So we liked it, but I was like, oh, we might tweak it slightly.
It was still a good analogy. And so it's, whether the triple lock should remain. So for those who don't know, although I'm sure most of our listeners will know, the triple lock is when the government increases the state pension by one of three things, either 2.5% or wage increases or inflation increases. And so when the latest wage increase data came out, I think it was for up to end of July. Is that right? It means that in April next year, the state pension will increase by 8.5% probably, because that's the highest. So it's the highest of 2.5% wage increase or inflation increase. So because wage increase is the highest at 8.5%, that's probably what's going to increase by in April. And in April this year, it increased by something like 10% or 10.1%. So it's the second sort of massive increase for state pensioners in their state pension. So then there was this whole debate came out on social media about whether the triple lock is sustainable because it's getting quite expensive for the Treasury. I spoke to quite a few pensions experts, including Steve Webb, the former pensions minister. Yeah. And he's the one who sort of was the brains behind the triple lock. He was saying it should remain in place, but not up until, not for the next 50 years, but maybe for the next 5 or 10 years, until it's done what it was intended to do, which was to get state pension up to a third of average wages in the UK.
Right.
Because so you're supposed to have like a third of your average wages as state pension, then another third as your personal pension. And that's predicted to be what people need to live on in retirement generally, on average.
Right.
But then other people, including some financial advisors I spoke to, say it's not sustainable and it should be dropped. But then the whole poker thing was to do with whether the two main political parties, they're not committing to whether they're going to keep it or drop it, because obviously the next general election is due by January 2025, but it could be called earlier. And the general public, who doesn't generally, it's a big generalization, but doesn't generally understand the state pension and particularly the triple lock. So they're all up in arms about it. And when they hear pension triple lock could be dropped, what they hear is your state pension will go down, which isn't necessarily the case. It doesn't mean, as one of the advisors I spoke to said, just because the triple lock's going to be dropped doesn't mean what comes in its place is going to be really bad. But so that's the whole debate.
Neither have presented anything that could come into its place.
No, exactly. So I had a bit of a conversation around that and what could be done. Basically, the upshot is that most of the people I spoke to, and I think just the general consensus in the industry, is that there should be an independent review, independent of politics, about what the triple lock could be replaced with, so that state pension continues to go up and doesn't just drop or stay the same. But yes, at the moment, neither the Tories nor the Labour Party have committed to whether they're going to keep it or get rid of it. Hence the whole poker thing, hold or fold.
Didn't Lib Dems say that they would?
Yeah, but they're not very important, are they?
Lib Dems.
I mean, I don't know. They're gaining traction in my area. I was surprised.
Well, that's how it came about in the first place, isn't it? Really, because it was the coalition government.
Yes.
So, it was probably the Lib Dem side of that. that was keen to introduce. But yes, so they've said they'll maintain it regardless.
Yeah, but then even then, is it maintain it forever or just for the next 5 years? Or because the Institute for Fiscal Studies did some research, brought out a research report just around the same time, saying that if you maintained it for 50 years, or no, by 2050, the cost of it, if we keep the triple lock, will be unsustainable. I can't remember all the numbers. You're going to have to read the report for the numbers.
I think that's part of the thing, isn't it? That there needs to be that, proper discussions about it. So like Lois said, if people sort of hear certain things, or they think, or there's that, those image of pensioners that are in poverty, and you sort of think, well, that's really horrible. Like, you can't make that an even harder situation for them. But it's not necessarily, no one's saying about taking things away from the hardest people, the people that need it the most, maybe, but it's having proper discussions about it. And I think that's the thing of, it needs to be open and honest, and
exactly.
say why it wouldn't work anymore. Obviously, during the pandemic, it had to change slightly and became like a double lock for a while, didn't it? And then there was a discussion as to whether it would come back as a triple lock or not. But I think it's it's that thing of where other people in society are also struggling as well with everything that's going on at the moment, that is it then completely unfair to just make sure one proportion of the population is looked after
exactly
more than others.
And a big issue is that lots of people think that they've paid into it because they've paid national insurance contributions their whole working life, and they're even called contributions, so they just assume they've contributed to a pot which then they're available, that should be available to them. But when that's not actually the case, it's paying for the current generation of pensioners, state pensions, and other things as well.
So we have to wait for Gen Alpha to pay for ours.
Exactly. There's no pot for state pension, and then there's that whole issue about whether it should be means tested. But that could be a whole cover feature in itself. To be honest, it's a massive thing. Wow. Probably not, because the sort of extra departments and people that need to be hired and things and extra costs would actually probably outweigh the benefits of it being means tested. But anyway, I've pretty much given you the entire cover feature.
I was going to say at some point I might need to talk about it in.
No. Just maybe copy and paste that into next month's podcast.
But we'll make it talk about the rest of the magazine that we produced.
We could stick with you, but I think I will cut it there and say, for everything else Lois has contributed to this magazine, please do pick it up, whether that's a physical issue or getting it online once it comes out digitally.
I just really enjoyed writing that cover feature. It's just really fun.
Anyway, no, it's really interesting.
I'll stop talking now.
I guess you were
I'm really glad she did it, because I just suddenly was like, right, I think we haven't done one on pensions properly for a while, Lois.
Yeah.
Here we go.
My pensions guru is
someone
leaving.
needs to be, someone needs to be the pensions guru.
Well done, good job, yeah.
So Lois is stepping into the pensions
you can sense the passion, You can sense the passion.
It's a really interesting area. I would.
Yeah.
But I'm going to move on. What about you, Darius? Is there anything you have coming up in October?
There's an event that I think would be quite interesting from Morningstar. It's just talking about the 1.5 degree pathway and very sort of sustainable and sort of the stuff from the UN that everyone sort of agreed to adhere to, and that ESG professionals more and so are going to be there to discuss it and the wide impact it's got on the not just the world but the markets as well. I thought that'd be quite interesting, because obviously it's something that affects all of us. Are they going to also discuss Rishi Sunak's walk back as well? They haven't. I'm sure it's going to come up. I mean, I'd be surprised if it didn't, but it wasn't listed in the sort of criteria that we're going to discuss. But
maybe they when they came up with the event, they hadn't thought, but that hadn't come out yet.
So, potentially. I can't remember the timeline now, but I bet that will at least get a mention from someone.
Yeah, well, I look forward to hearing. I did speak to someone from Morningstar about their ESG portfolio, and we did have a conversation about that. But that is in anticipation of COP28. So that podcast episode will drop around that time, but we kind of discussed how ESG and sustainable investing have remained an important part of people's portfolios. Even someone like me who has quite a tiny portfolio, I still like to think like, ooh, what can I get that's ESG worthy? So yeah, I think, knowing more about it and it being more readily available, having options that are readily available, I think have been quite beneficial. And Katie, what about you? What's going on in October?
I think what a great job the team have done of telling you nothing in terms of actual like scoops, because they want you to read it first on marketing. So that's why keeping the poker analogy, we're keeping our cards very close to our chest, Kim. We want people to still be reading it. Let's say read the rest of the October issue, because Lois has done a fantastic job with a lot more of the pieces as well, as have the rest of the team. Obviously we're missing some of our key players, Amanda and Maria as well, so they would usually have a lot to contribute in terms of the features side of things as well. But I think we're all looking forward to Money Marketing Interactive. I did my little plug earlier. That's a big thing coming up for us, so we'll obviously get out a lot of stories from that. There's various other conferences in the industry that the team will be going and covering as well, which is nice. But for Money Marketing Interactive, it's got an overall theme of technology, so we'll be looking into some of those areas that we were discussing earlier of how AI can sort of take over and things that's going on, but it's still just a good general rounded thing of bringing the content to life, really, and having a chance to have those discussions and debates. There's going to be some great keynote talks as well, so really really looking forward to hosting that and attending.
I'm looking forward to it. I always enjoy the conferences. I feel like I get a lot more real life experience or explanations, because I think maybe I'm such an auditory learner that when someone explains something or a concept, it makes more sense to me. So I do enjoy the conferences a lot, and I'll be doing a panel again, so I'm excited for that. Hopefully you won't flub, because in real life you can't edit. Unfortunately,
you don't need edits, Kim. You don't need edits.
What if that's the first time I decide to like drop an F-bomb on stage? I don't know. That would be crazy. But
maybe just don't do that.
Yeah. But now that I'm thinking about it,
hearing it, Kim, it's fine. If you say the FCA, it's not a problem at all.
I just don't want people to boo me, right? But it should be a really good month. Again, I said I love October, not just because it's spooky season, but also just we have a lot of exciting things coming up. So I look forward to speaking to you all again at the end of October, once we've wrapped up MMI and we've wrapped up everything that might be coming out, any exclusives that might come out in October. So excited to cover those, and I look forward to speaking to you guys again later. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao, bye bye.
Bye.
From Sicily, Ciao from Sicily.